we're buying land and building a house, and I'm documenting the process one more time for you guys. I did this last year with 2 homes, and this year I'm going to do it with another 2 homes. This one just happens to be ready to go. And this is what a finished set of plans looks like. And so every municipality is going to be slightly different, but in spite of that, you're going to have about 90% of this is going to run in alignment from municipality to municipality. These ones are for the HOA, so we have to go in for HOA approval. So these are ready to go in for HOA approval. Now, this right here is my structural engineering, right here. And so it isn't always required by municipalities, but it's starting to become more prevalent as we move forward. This cost me $500 to get right here. All it is they take the CAD drawings, which already have the bracing. The engineer comes in, he takes the drawings from the architect, basically stamps them, reads through them, obviously. He wrote up some notations on here, stamped them, approved them, $500. Now, the res check, which is your energy compliance certificate. Sometimes it's called different things depending from area to area. This one in our local area is called a res check, and it's an energy compliance. This is required, and the architect provides this for you. It's typically free. Now, this house, because it's in a semi-rural area, it sits on 2.5 acres. You can see how big the scale of the house is compared to the land. We have a big ravine that runs through here. Does not sit in a flood zone. This is a mountain area. And so we strategically position this. The mountain views are actually incredible. But we had to get a septic tank. So the septic permit cost me about $100. And you need that before you can apply for your actual permits. So state engineers, we go in with just a floor plan. When we get it from the architect, it takes about 2 weeks to obtain, and we get our septic permit. Then we have our truss engineering. Whichever company you use for trusses typically provides the truss engineering free of charge, as long as you purchase the trusses from them. And so it has all the layouts of all the different trusses through the entire build, and you'll have to include the entire package. Now, this is our county permits, letting us know that we've gotten a dressing, and they've approved it for floodways and other stuff that they actually look for grading and drainage, so forth and so on. And now we go to the state approval, and we'll submit this. Now, the prints, this is our site plan right here. This has our topographic survey included on it. It has our area and site location included on there. And here is our actual boundary survey that's right here. And here's our topographic survey all together on one site plan, okay? Now, second page, we have our floor plan. This is the actual floor plan of the house. This house happens to be just over 530 square feet. This is the elevation. We're doing the mid-century modern build on this one. We're going to do some stonework on the pillars up front. This is the dimensions. Also gives the footing and structural foundation layout for the actual build, along with all the dimensions. This is actually the ledger for what the footings look like on the concrete. So that's the foundation details. Then we actually have our structural framing layout. This is the one the structural engineer takes. And when the structural engineer takes this, he just reviews it and makes sure that it's in compliance with shearing and wind loads for that area. If you're by water, that it complies with hurricanes and so forth. Now, this is the structural shear wall. Now, this is for the shear strength of the walls. When it goes up so the wind doesn't blow the house down, that it's structurally sound. This is the structural truss layout. This is the way the trusses are going to actually lay out. We've had to change this from time to time, where we've actually went in, and if too much water is going to one side of the house, and let's say we have a drop-off or a layout, we'll switch the truss location. We'll make the truss company switch those for us. So one thing that I always pay attention to is I actually always pay attention to which way the water is going to migrate and drain off the house. This house in particular has a massive lot, not a massive deal. We just don't want it dripping in the front of the front door or right off the back door, and I hate when it drops on the garage. So the way this one's going to run is we have all the trusses running this direction, so it drains off to the back of the house. We have a little bit of the lower part of the garage draining off to this front side of the house, but it's not in an area that's going to be compromised based on walkways or entryways. There's going to be a big walkway that comes around, and then the rest of this all drains out to the north side, which actually runs towards that drainage canal, that ravine that runs on that lot. We'll probably put some retention ponds on there. The civil engineer already called them out. but he'll probably require some overflow so that if those drainage ponds fill up, it'll just go into the drainage canal. Now, this is the structural and roof ventilation plan, where you actually get air passing through your roofways so that you don't get fungus or mold, and you actually get some breezeways into your truss lines of your houses. And again, this also goes over the drainage again, so it has it on here twice. This next one, and the architect does this for you guys, ladies and gentlemen, has the structural section. This has all the call outs for all your structural beams, windows, how everything is braced, and the sections it's calling out inside is called out, and this is your detail sheet. This right here is your electrical layout, and I always go through this because sometimes there's plugs behind doors and there's little tiny things that just don't make sense. And so I'll actually go through this to make sure that we don't have any crazy stuff happening. Sometimes they have too many recessed cams. Sometimes there's switches that are in awkward places that I feel could be in better places, like when you walk into a house and walk into the kitchen. Like this one, for sake of example, comes over here and the whole family room's in here. But when you walk into the kitchen, the closest place to turn on any lighting in the kitchen is back here or right back here. Why? So what we'll probably do here is we'll probably put a switch right along with this box here to be able to turn on the lights into the kitchen as well. So it's just little stuff like that. And I actually just caught that right now as we're looking through these sets of plans. And then last but not least, you have your finished elevations and renderings of your elevations. We'll do some really cool pillars right up here in the front way, wrapped with stone, real sleek and cool looking. We'll do a little outdoor kitchen right back here. We'll do some TPO, a membrane roof that's actually low E and energy efficient. And that is a full set of ready to submit plans. Now, they'll require you to submit two. A lot of municipalities now will allow you to do this electronically. I'm still old school. I've always done them in this fashion, so I continue doing them in this fashion. But you can actually have all of these scanned. These are already electronic versions. And like in Washington State, we don't deal with any of the paper anymore. Everything is electronic. Here in New Mexico, I still have the option to do either or. So I'm old school. I've been doing this for over 26 years. So I still submit them like this. And what's cool is that I can actually show you the physical drawings and what you're in need of when you're buying a piece of land and building a house. Now, all of this kind of runs in sequence. The process to putting this all together is probably about 60 to 90 days, depending on the efficiency of your team. And I would say probably closer to about 90 days. Now, with that said, we here have probably about a 2-week plan review, maybe 3 weeks at best. Some municipalities take longer. Washington State, being one of the most complicated ones that I've done business in, typically takes 6 months to 9 months to be able to do plan review. And it can go up to a year if you don't have all this stuff organized and put together for them. In California, Desert Hot Springs takes a little bit longer as well. But in a lot of the municipalities across the United States, especially smaller semi-rural areas that don't have the infrastructure and they're not as busy as some of those dense cities, we can get these plan reviews done in 2-3 weeks. So really cool. We'll be breaking ground on this within the next few weeks. While this is in plan review, we'll probably break ground on it nonetheless. We're going to build it cash. We don't have to worry about the banks. One thing that I always tell people is never break ground on your house until the bank loan is approved, because they want to be in first position. And if you break ground on your land, turn dirt, and you bring materials out there, now those contractors that bring materials to your site can put a lien on it. Based on lien laws, they take first position and they trump over the bank. And so you want to be careful not to break ground until the bank loan is facilitated, signed, and closed, and then you can break ground on your house. Because we're not getting a bank loan, we're building cash, we'll just break ground on our house, which is the way we've always done it. And we can get all the way to what's called first inspections. So that means we can go in, we can do our pad site, we can do all our hydro engineering. If there's soil samples that are going to be taken, we'll get the surveyor to go out there and mark out our house either tomorrow or Tuesday, this being a Sunday that I'm recording this. And then once we get the site layout, they'll mark our buildable area so we don't devour all the natural vegetation. And then we'll just grade out the area where the house is actually going to sit. And then once they actually do that, we position it where the mountain views are taken into account. Then we'll go in and we'll start digging the footings. We'll get the plumbing, rough in taken care of, and we'll get the plumbers to pull their own permits independently. And if they do, in spite of us waiting for plan review, we could actually cover the trenches for the plumbing lines. We can actually grade it, and put all our rebar in. And then we get to what's called a pre-slab inspection, which is before you actually pour concrete and you see all the insulation around the side of the house. And we'll show this in the field in the next video. But you can actually go in, set all the rebar, have it graded, put the steel mesh in there for a monolithic slab. If you're doing stem walls, you can go in and set all your stem walls in before you actually pour the concrete, because the inspectors want to see that rebar. They want to see those footings. They want to see that insulation, and they want to see that the plumbing pipes are actually wrapped before you pour that concrete. And so you can go all the way to pre-slab inspections or stem wall inspections before you get your building permits in most municipalities. And then you can go in, as long as you have your HOA approval, and start moving dirt to buy land, build houses. We should make about $250,000 on this one. Probably take us about 4 to 5 months. I say 5-month build to get this one done. We'll do typically 2 at a time so that we make $500,000 between the 2 builds and go from there. Nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen, we're buying land, building houses, and what better way to go out and supplement your income by $500,000 in 6 months? And maybe we'll do 4 of these this year, make an extra mil on top of everything else. And that's how you buy land, build houses. We'll do a video too to document the process, 2024, of how to buy land, build houses, and generate 6-figure profits.